You mentioned Uganda.
Yeah,
Yeah, Joseph Kony, the Ugandan warlord. I'm
exactly.
seeing here he kidnapped 591 children in 3 years between
Oh, he
2000.
probably, they must have kidnapped. I had they probably kidnapped for at least a short time, like a few hours to a day, more than 50,000 kids. Is
As
my
a terror tactic.
A little bit. I mean, most of those people they just let go after they carried goods. They tried to hold on to thousands. The short story, listen, if you're not popular, if you're running an armed movement and you need troops, um, and nobody wants to fight for you, you can either give up or you can have a small clandestine terror organization that tries a different set of tactics. But if you want a conventional army and you don't want to give up, then you have to conscript. And if you want to conscript and you don't, here we conscript and then we say, if you run away, we'll shoot you. And we control the whole territory. So that's a credible promise. If you're a small insurgency organization, people can run away and then you can't promise to shoot them very easily because you don't control all the territory. And so what these movements do is they try to brainwash you. And I think what they figured out after years of abducting children, you talk about evil, they figured out that, we have to maybe like, I don't know, but say like maybe 1 in 100 will like buy the rhetoric. So we just have to conscript or abduct a large number of kids, and then some small number of them will not run away. And those will be our committed cadres. And those people can become commanders. And because they'll buy the propaganda and they'll buy the messianic messages. But because most people wise up, we have to, especially as they get older, we just have to abduct vast numbers of kids in order to have a committed cadre. And so it has the other benefit of sort of being terrifying for the population and being a weapon in itself. But I think for them, it was just primarily a way to solve a recruitment problem when you're a totally like hopeless and ideologically empty rebel movement. So in some sense, yeah. So that's maybe the short story. It was a real tragedy.
I heard one interview of a dictator where the journalist was basically telling them, like, how could you be doing this? Basically calling out all the atrocities the person is committing, and the dictator was kind of laughing it off and walked away.
Yeah.
And like he cut off the interview. That feel like a very unproductive thing to be doing. You're basically stating the thing that everyone knows to his face. Maybe that's pleasant to somebody, but that feels unproductive. It feels like the goal should be some level of understanding.
Yeah. He's been super elusive. I mean, why he's been fighting this, Kony. Yeah. I mean, why he's fought this, I don't even know. It's not a great example of the way I look at that situation is it's a little bit particular to the way Uganda works, but most of the political leadership for most of its post-independence history came from the north of the country. That was like the power base. And it was dictatorial, and they were, so you've heard of like people like Idi Amin, but people have heard of like Milton Obote, and all these people were all from the north. And then you get the current president who came to power in 1986. So he's been around a long time. This guy Museveni. He was from the south, and he was fighting against these dictators, and he was fighting for a freer and better Uganda. And in many ways, I mean, he's still a dictator himself, but he did create a freer and better Uganda. So he's better than he's a thug, but he was better than thugs before him. And he came to power, and he was like, and some of the Northerners were like, we want to keep up the fight. And he was like, you know what, you guys, I'm strong enough to continue to the north. You guys go, you want to have a crazy insurgency up there. And some kook believes he's like, speaking, through the Holy Spirit's, speaking through him, and he's going to totally disrupt the North. I don't care. That's great. You guys just fester and fight, and that's going to totally destabilize this traditional power base, and then that's just going to help me consolidate control. So he was an autocrat. He was an unchecked leader who allowed a lunatic to run around and cause mayhem because it was in his political interest to do so. And there's no puzzle. It's in some ways it's that simple and kind of tragic.
There's little to understand.
Yeah, it took me a lot. Well, you know what? It's not so easy. In the middle of it, I didn't understand that. I don't think a lot of people did, and I'm not. I think I could persuade most people who study or work there now to like see it that way. I think that would make sense to people, but it didn't make sense in the moment. You know, in the moment this is happening, it's terrible, and you kind of, you don't realize how avoidable it was. That basically it was the absence of effective police actions that kept the lunatic from being contained. And that lunatic would never, it's not that skillful of our movement, right? It could have been shut down, and there was just never any political will to shut it down. The opposite. That's what I meant. Like that unchecked leader, not only do you not bear the cost, but you might have a private incentive as an autocrat to like see that violence happen. And in this case, it was just keeping a troublesome part of the country busy.